Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Another Simple Favor, starring Blake Lively, Anna Kendrick, Henry Golding, and Allison Janney, directed by Paul Feig. Well, in case if anybody doesn't know where you can watch this movie yet, you can watch it on Amazon Prime Video, as this is a sequel to A Simple Favor. And how do I feel about this sequel? Well, that's something what this show is for, so let's just get into it. We get through opening credits as Stephanie Smothers, returned by Anna Kendrick, blogs while in Capri, Italy, and says she didn't kill Sean Townsend, returned by Henry Golding, and explains what ends up happening in a couple of days before, as it starts with Stephanie getting her son Miles to camp, while one of the parents named Darren, who I forgot about his name at the first movie, drops off his little girl Lulu and tells her not to get pregnant, which is a cringe-worthy dialogue already, as it's once again the case of this movie. While Stephanie has written books about her friend Emily Nelson, returned by Blake Lively, including a book she's signing for along with her assistant Vicky, along with her with until Emily as the, along with until Emily comes in and Detective Somerville comes to explain it to her, and Emily announces her engagement and asks Stephanie to be her maid of honor in Capri. And Stephanie reluctantly accepts the invitation, while she hasn't blogged in a while. And once again, this dialogue is much more cringeworthy than the last time. And these characters are absolutely fucking despicable, as I hate them more than last time. After Darren convinces Stephanie to go to Capri based on the blackmail Emily gave her in the last scene, Stephanie blogs on the airplane until some woman says no blogging on the plane, and she brings Vicky while her other guest seems so demanding right off the bat. While on the way to Italy by plane, Emily offers Stephanie a martini at 10 o'clock in the morning and takes her to the bedroom on the plane and says she's marrying Dante Versano, who's a mob boss of Italy, and explains how she met Dante while being under a different identity and found out about her from the TV. And Emily is fucking around with Stephanie until they land in Italy, while the acting is horrible by everybody in particular, and the cinematography looks really bad in this throughout the movie. They get to the island of Capri while Nikki plays around with a fucking drone, while these things are annoying as hell, while Sean is drunk 24/7, and it feels like it based on how he's acting, and it almost felt like he didn't want to be there, as he was forced to bring Nikki as things are good between him and Stephanie, while Sean is acting like a complete asshole from first scene until he gets killed later in the movie, and they're going to a very nice place to celebrate Emily and Dante's wedding. And I always wanted to go to Italy, so still do despite this movie makes the location look bad, while Dante's brother, Matteo, flips out because Stephanie was blogging about the location, which is another asshole thing that, like, the lady on the plane was complaining about it earlier in the film, as Anna Kendrick and Henry Golding deserve better than this scene. And I won't get into what's happening with Blake Lively nowadays, but this movie, like the last time, is a little too long for me. But it will be confusing like last time, and I'll talk about it as time goes on. Dante's mother Portia brings over Emily's mother Margaret and Aunt Linda McLandon, played by Allison Janney, to make her wedding rather spoiled, as Margaret calls Nikki a demon from hell, as like last time, Margaret comes off disrespectful to her own daughter, as she's religious. While I get the impression she has Alzheimer's, while Sean laughs about her family and talks shit to Emily in front of Stephanie, and Sean thinks about having full custody of Nikki, and Dante has had enough, while Emily walks away from the table, with Stephanie walking over to her to tell her to be at her bachelorette party, or else she'll throw her off the fucking cliff. And the writing in this comes off rather cruel and mean spirited, but at the same time, it's so bad, and this movie is much worse than last time. Sean whacks off in the shower, and by definition, I mean jerks off or masturbates or whatever, until someone comes in and stabs Sean in the finger and gets killed from there. But who can it be at this point in the movie? I don't know. Do I care? while Stephanie goes to the pool for Emily's bachelorette party with just them two, which feels odd as this is an odd whodunit movie. While in the pool, at first, I thought Stephanie was dead, but they were playing a game and talk about how Kate Winslet can hold her breath while making Avatar: The Way of Water, for example. While Emily brings up how she killed Jack in Titanic, and don't reference James Cameron as he's a masterful director compared to Paul Feig, who directed both of these movies and have so many conversations. And at this point, they brought up writing endings like Diane Keaton in The Godfather. And once again, do not reference better movies than this is. That was kind of a kiss of death of this movie. While next scene, Nikki is locked out of the room with Stephanie and brings the maid over to open the door, and they see he's dead, not Nikki, but his father. And Detective Antonio Lucchesi, I don't know if I'm saying that wrong, please forgive me, does absolutely not a fucking thing as Emily bullshits him by saying he's a good man, and I guess all bets are off as this movie is worse than the last movie. Vicky comes to Stephanie's room while drunk and is giving horrible advice and next day comes and Emily goes for a walk while Stephanie follows behind and sees her book in a bookstore and walks to a cafe where she finds Agent Irene Walker, who's been following Stephanie since the beginning of the movie at her book signing. And she says she followed Linda and Dante coming in and takes a photo of Stephanie and Irene, as Irene pretends to be a fan of Stephanie in the most awkward way possible. And this movie is pretty goddamn awkward, and Stephanie calls Detective Somerville to do a checkup on Linda, as Stephanie bumps into Linda outside Emily's room, as Linda knows something is up with Stephanie, while Stephanie knows something is up with Dante and Mateo before the wedding ever begins, with approaching Emily as Emily is wearing a white dress with something that looks like a blood on the tail, and the costume designing was, I guess, okay, but not my favorite thing in the movie, in my opinion. Dante makes a toast while he is disrespecting Portia as he burns a piece of paper, Lord knows what it is, as he finishes off his toast, and Portia believes she's in hell, while Stephanie's speech to Emily and Dante's wedding, which is super fucking awkward, and at the same time horrible, as this movie is horrible right out the bat. And here's the thing, I fell asleep at this point for 30 minutes, and if I just let the rest of the movie go, I wouldn't care what the fuck happened in the next hour. As Stephanie witnesses the murder of Dante and explains it to everybody at the wedding, and Mateo was accused by Linda, and my money was on her. And if I didn't fall asleep, I still wouldn't care, while we get back to Stephanie blogging until Darren calls her about Miles being expelled from camp from stealing something from there, and she can't get out of the country, no thanks to the detective. And Linda in this movie has so many problems at this point. I just checked out of this movie. Emily comes into Stephanie's hotel room with the black dress as she confesses it was a part of Emily's revenge, and she kisses Stephanie and pulls out a knife, and she pretends Stephanie slit her wrists. When I'm calling bullshit at this point, as Irene has a maid coming to talk with Stephanie in her room and tries to get her out of the room and is rather successful as she goes to Margaret's room and asks about Charity, as she was pretending to be Emily while it still looks like Blake Lively, and she learns about how Charity got born in Hope, aka Emily, and Faith, as Linda stole the baby, and this makes absolutely no motherfucking sense. Portia comes in to talk with Stephanie and sees she's missing, while Stephanie gets a call from Detective Somerville and finds Irene until she gets stabbed, and Stephanie gets framed once again after learning about Linda and being the villainess of the movie, while Linda learns about everything Linda did in the past, from Margaret, as she knows, and Linda kills Margaret dead. And we move on to Portia talking with Stephanie as she puts a needle in her, making her as high as a kite. And she explains it was Charity who killed Dante, which was stupid, as this is a stupid, horrible movie. while everything is going straight to streaming, can most of the time be the worst movies like Star Trek 31 for Section 31, for example. And that's still the worst movie of this year, as this might be my top 10 of the year, in my opinion. Emily rescues Stephanie while high, and she tells Stephanie Charity is alive, and as well as Stephanie asking Emily to prove how she would know it's her, as she starts by saying brother fucker. And that's when I woke up on my first viewing and hitch a bike while Stephanie vomits, and Emily confesses Charity and Dante were just friends as she was in love with Matteo as he was gay for Dante, and this twist is worse than the last film, and again, nothing makes sense. As Charity shows up in Emily's hotel one evening as she was freaked out, and looks sort of like what happened to Florence Pugh's character in the end of the movie Midsommar, and she wants to see Emily and asks her why did she kill Faith and poisons her in the back of the neck. And she confesses Charity killed Sean and Dante because she wants her sister back, as she needs Emily and is a sister fucker. While this explanation hurts my fucking head like big time, like the last movie did, Emily's plan is to keep running with Nikki while Stephanie's phone is live on her blog and asks for Emily or else she'll kill Nikki, and cuts a piece of Nikki's hair. And Emily and Stephanie encounter Linda and Charity as Linda points a gun at Nikki's head, wanting to shoot from the mob, and as Charity was disguised as Emily when marrying Dante as Linda, wants to kill Emily and Stephanie while Charity just wants to kill Stephanie. But she shoots Linda and throws her off the cliff, and with Nikki distracting her, and Charity points the gun at Stephanie, and Emily blocks it for Stephanie and tells her not to kill any more people. And Stephanie writes a sequel about how the situation she just went through, and Charity goes to court as Emily on the TV, and Nikki comes home to Stephanie and Miles while they hang out with Darren and Vicky, as Emily calls Stephanie and Emily asks her to take care of Nikki because she won't have a normal life with Emily around. And they eventually hang up, and Emily meets with Portia as Portia decides to keep a secret to Emily, and Portia asks Emily for a simple favor, and the climax was confusing as hell, which makes this one of the top 10 worst movies of the year, but by how much? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 1.7 out of 10. Last time I asked myself, would this get any better or worse than that? But as it turns out, it's worse than last time, which is a real fucking shame, as the dialogue was once again very cringeworthy and much worse than last time, and I absolutely hate these characters as they feel more despicable than ever before, while the acting is horrible by everybody and the cinematography is really bad throughout. The writing in this comes off rather cruel and mean-spirited, but at the same time, it's so bad, and this is a much worse movie than last time, as it's so goddamn awkward, and the costume designing was, I guess, okay, as it was not the best thing about the movie whatsoever. The movie is absolutely horrible, despite it's not as confusing as last time, but I fell asleep on my first viewing for 30 minutes, and if I let the rest of the movie go, as it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, I would have just not give a fuck, as this is a strong non-recommendation for this movie, as it was long like the last movie and predictable, and this is a stupid, horrible movie while almost everything straight to streaming sometimes, but most of the time most of the time can be the worst movies like Star Trek Section 31, for example, as this is part of my top 10 worst movies of the year in my opinion, so please, Paul Feig, whatever you do, please don't make any more of this pile of shit. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this series, and until then, let's not ask any more simple favors for once.